Hi guys, and welcome to the Peterborough vs Sunderland match review. And we've gone from beating Burnley at Turf Moor 3-1 to going away from home at Peterborough and losing 3-0. So this is a pretty difficult video to make. So Sunderland have lost by 3-0, so we'll get straight into the review. And we did go with a 4-4-2, as we have been doing recently. We had John McLaughlin in goal. We had Luke O'Nien at right back. We had Ozturk and Willis at the centre back positions. We had Conor McLaughlin coming in again at left back because I think Denver must have picked up a knock of some form, which immediately terrified me because we know how terrible he's been at left back. We had Power and Ledbetter in the middle. On one side we had Gooch, the other we had McGeady, and up front we had Charlie Wyke, and we had a returning McNulty up top as well. So I was relatively happy with that, with that lineup, bar obviously Conor McLaughlin at left back, and like I said in the preview, I would have liked to see Robson in there for that bit of tenacity and that bit of sort of box-to-box attacking threat from the centre of midfield, which we didn't have at all with Power and Ledbetter. But the game did kick off, and the opening 10 minutes, it was mainly Peterborough. I would say we did kick off immediately with a decent chance for McGeady, who hit it over the bar from just outside the box. But then McGeady up at the other end, he was a villain, in which he should have cleared it away. He should have cleared it. He had it in the sort of corner flag position. He should have just hoofed it away. He tried to be a smart arse, as he does, and he tried to play it inside, in which he's gone straight to a Peterborough player who's knocked it across goal for Mo Isa to get the ball, and he's lashed it over the bar. Not long later, Mo Isa had another chance as well from just outside the box, and he smashed it towards the bottom left-hand corner, in which McLaughlin had to pull off a pretty decent save. But then for the rest of the half, it was actually quite scrappy. The first half anyway, I think it was quite scrappy, but it was also relatively even. I don't think they were miles better than us in that first half. They just looked so much more threatening in the final third, whereas we didn't. There was several times, we'd get down one side with McGeady, he'd just try and do one trick too many and he'd lose the ball, or Gooch would get it on one side, he'd lose the ball, and Power and Ledbetter, they were just so defensive. It's just such sideways passing, and then we just end up resulting to hoofing the ball up to Wyke, who, to be fair, was winning 90% of the headers or the aerial duels he was going for, but then no one was following it up. Obviously you have McNulty who's making little runs in behind, and he did get in behind a couple of times, McNulty, but you need someone else to help him out and follow it up with either Power or Ledbetter to push up and get forward. But no, they were still sat back in our half, do you know what I mean? And it just gave us such a lack of attacking threats and intensity. We just didn't have that at all day. But like I say, we did get several crosses in with either McGeady or Gooch, and they were just poor balls, either going straight to the keeper or just straight out for a goal kick, and we weren't really creating at all. Whereas Peterborough, as soon as they got into the final third, it was slick, quick passing. They knew what they were doing immediately, whereas we were taking our time, eventually just hoof it into the box and nothing had happened. So Peterborough, I have to give it to them, they looked excellent in that final third, absolutely excellent. And eventually it paid off, and they did have a free kick from easy 25-30 odd yards, and of course it was the man Marcus Maddison, who Sunderland have been linked to for God knows how long now, and he's hit it from distance, and it's a great strike. It's such a nice, beautiful, clean strike, but you have to say as well, McLaughlin should have at least gone for it. He didn't. He's kind of left it. I think if you look beforehand, it looks like he's organising his wall just before Marcus Maddison does strike it, so it does kind of leave him on one side, but it does look shite for him that he hasn't even dived for the ball, not taking it away from Marcus Maddison, because it was an absolutely cracking free kick, but McLaughlin hasn't covered himself in glory there, to be honest with you. But it was a good free kick, and we go into half-time 1-0 down. And at that point, and as I said in social media, I just thought, the only difference between the two sides is one side looked clinical going forward, and the other looked poor. Because I think generally it looked relatively even. It was scrappy, but that was it. Then the second half kicks off, and we actually created a couple of little chances straight off in the first half, in the second half, sorry. And we managed to get McNulty in, but he took his touch and he took far too long. He's right on the edge of the 6-yard box on the right hand side. He took just that extra second or two too long before he pulls the trigger, and it's been blocked quite simply, or well, it was a very good block to be fair by the Peterborough defence. Then we did have a free kick which was cleared away, and then they've countered and they have finished it to make it 2-0. And from then on, for the final sort of like half an hour onwards, you could tell that they were just on the front foot. I think, they were just miles better. They outclassed us in that sense for the final sort of half an hour, and it was just all them. When we went forward, there was just nothing at all to go for, whereas they had so much movement and lovely movement off the ball, and they did just absolutely outclass us. And Maddison went and got his second goal of the game as well to make it 3-0. So you need to ask whoever was looking at Marcus Maddison. It's been reported that our people upstairs weren't interested in him or rejected him, which I can understand. I think it was more rejecting the price tag of 2.5 million when he's only got a year left on his contract, and I can understand that. But there has been rumours that our lot simply didn't rate him, which for me is just it's absolutely dumbfounding. Do you know what I mean? It's ridiculous. How can you not rate him? We know full well how good he is, particularly for this league. He's absolutely class, and he's shown it today. He absolutely took the piss out of us. He ran the show today and absolutely took the piss, and he deserved the goals that he got because he was class today, Marcus Maddison, and a lot of other players as well for Peterborough. Now, it was 3-0 down, then Luke O'Nien gets sent off with 20 minutes to go. Was it sending off? No. It was absolutely pathetic from Tony, the Peterborough player. Absolutely pathetic. Don't get me wrong, Luke O'Nien reacted in a way he shouldn't have done. They had a bit of a tussle and he's reacted, and he has kind of put his arm around him and kind of got in his face and screamed a bit. But Tony then just grabs his face and flings himself to the ground like he's been bloody shot, and nothing has happened to him at all. The referee's bought it and he's given him a red card. So Luke O'Nien, now he's got himself a ban, which is really not needed because now we don't have a right or a left back, essentially. Now we're going to have an absolute shit show of a defence, even though it hasn't been exactly pretty anyway today. Then 7 or 8 minutes later, Charlie White goes and gets himself sent off. He was already booked, and then it was really, really unnecessary. A Peterborough play, it looks like he's going out for throwing anyway, and he just sticks his foot out. It's a simple yellow card, picks himself up a second, and he's sent off as well. So for the last sort of 10, 15 minutes or so, we're playing with 9 men. We did bring on subs. Gooch come off and Grig come on. Didn't really do much for me, really. And also Flanagan come on as well. He had to fill in because obviously O'Nien he got sent off. Although to be fair, we're quite lucky that we didn't concede again after getting the 2 men sent off. If anything, I think we probably played a little bit better with 9 men. Strangely enough, we looked a bit more of a unit, but I suppose that's what you get when you get 2 men sent off. You just sit behind the ball, don't you? And Dobson come on for the final minute or two, which it was far too late, far too late. And so we've lost 3-0. I think in all we were outclassed. But I think the only positive I can take from it, from the very little positives that there are in that game, is that the first half, like I say, we were, I think, relatively evenly matched, and I think Peterborough fans could probably admit that. Like I say, in going into the final third, they looked more dangerous, but when we went into the final third, we were just wasteful and piss poor. McGeady was having an off day, constantly losing the ball. On a better day, that would have been a more exciting game in terms of the first half anyway, and the second if we played better anyway. That's just a stupid thing to say, I guess. But yeah, we did look relatively evenly matched. They just looked dangerous every time they got into the final third. Because if you look at the possession and stuff, it is even. It's all even. Do you know what I mean? But they were just so clinical and looked so good in the final third. And I have said it even in the preview and in my sort of predictions for the league, Peterborough will be up there around the playoffs. They will be up there because they are a very good team, and we've just been battered. We've had the floor white with us. So that's it, really. I think Power and Leadbitter, one of my main qualms for the day, even though we have plenty, which I'm probably biting my tongue at a little bit. But with Power and Leadbitter together, and I've said this in many previews and reviews now, at home or when we're playing a team where they're going to sit back and allow us to play football, they're great together because they can control the game and they can just push on and give it out to the wide men or to the attackers, and they can go and do the thing. Against teams like Peterborough that are going to come at us and are so dangerous in the final third, we need someone to combat their midfield and go forward ourselves. There was one time I could see all game where Leadbitter broke forward, and that was in the second half, and immediately we had a chance. Leadbitter grabbed the ball and he drove forward and he's played it onto Gooch, and immediately the game just opened up. Their defence just completely opened up. We got it to Gooch, who eventually, it was a wasted chance, but it was one of the clearer opportunities that we had all game. and that was the only time either Power or Leadbitter, well, it was only Leadbitter who got forward. Because whenever Leadbitter got the ball, he was either passing it sideways, and with Power, he was just hoofing balls over the top, and it was going out for a goal kick or straight to their keeper. He was constantly trying these Hollywood passes, and there's so many times where you see there's just a bit of space in front of him, just run into it, test them, just test them. Their centre mids must have thought, this is the most piss easy game I've ever had. Because when they're coming our end, they're walking straight past Power and Leadbitter, but from our point of view, we're doing nothing to test their midfield whatsoever, and they just walked all over us, and they were like wet flannels, Leadbitter and Power, and it was just piss easy for them. But yeah, so now it's devastating because we're going into this, this international break on a loss, which is an awful thing, because now that is just going to fester in the players, and it would have been really nice to end with, at least a point. But, again, fair play to Peterborough. You were better than us at the end of the day. You had a lot more quality than us. You played better than us. And you deserved the win 100%. Of course, a couple of qualms with, O'Nien shouldn't have been sent off. And just little bits and pieces. But where do we go from here? We desperately need a left back. Because that's just going to be, we're not going to keep a clean sheet at all throughout the season if we remain with McLaughlin, who I think on the whole he improved marginally to his recent performances at left back. But again, his positional sense was all over the place. And to be fair, O'Nien wasn't 100% great defensively today as well. He was actually out of position for their second goal, which was a very nice move for Peterborough. But yeah, massive improvements needed. And I don't know how many times I'm going to say that this season. But yeah, I think if we're going to get a loss out of the way, we're going to get a loss out of the way. And hopefully that's out of the system and we rectify it and make sure that this doesn't happen again in this fashion. I don't mind losing, but to lose in that fashion, it's absolutely horrible and it's disgraceful. We just collapsed. Absolutely collapsed. 3-0, 2 men sent off. That isn't acceptable. So that has to be sorted out. But anyway, yeah, I'm not going to give a man of the match because none of them deserve it, to be honest with you. So, you let me know what you thought about the game down in the comments. I can only imagine. Unless you're a Peterborough fan, you would have loved it. But if you have enjoyed this video anyway, please hit the like button for me. It would be massively, massively appreciated. And subscribe to the channel if you're not already to become a fully fledged member of the Sarny Army. But for now, you take care and stay jamming.